Hello and welcome to Jarviskjir Horn of Plenty.
Oh, it's the little kobolds.
Hi.
It's the little kobolds. We have no
Little
Doxy
blend.
for now, but she'll probably show up later. Yeah, I love using that picture for the missing players. Probably my greatest artwork I've ever completed. As you can tell, everyone's so excited to be here today. You can just feel the excitement dripping off of them as Neil texts.
I am, but it's this
He's trying to get a new 5-star waifu on his new gacha game. Gosh.
I don't play gacha games. It's my social media. I will tell you, as a millennial, for all you boomers out there, I look at this shit for like 4 or 5 hours, and I've got like 300 messages, and many of them pertain to me. And that's the problem with group chats. And it hurts. But right now, I'm retweeting, going live with DnD Jarviskjir Horn of Plenty with Dean Cutsworthy, Nagai _ and RVEEEEEN.
Yeah, that always bothers me.
With my unused Twitter, Yeah, it's because someone took the one with the.
Yeah, that's why I'm Nagai _ Monsters.
Yeah.
Branding.
Also, I just realised I'm a massive idiot because in the pre-stream I was going to ask Ollie a question about a spell that I thought had a material component, and I just realised that the thing I thought was a material component is actually the example text that Roll20 just puts
Ah!
It doesn't have a material component.
See, I don't know anything about my rules, and Ian was like, "Oh, I can't do that. It has a material component." I'm like, yes, it deliberately has a material component. Turns out, I'm the
it
sons
doesn't,
of a
so
bitch.
I could use this spell.
Material component. Bullshit.
Well, no, material component. It's ruby dust worth 50 GP, but I've just realised there's no material component. That's just being
fake news.
text.
That is fake gold, fake ruby.
It is. Now I just have to hope that we get a night's rest before the court case, so I can actually prepare.
Well, why don't we discuss what happened last time? No, don't we? You went to the gnomish enclave of Clear Keep to try and gather a food source that could be more reliable. The negotiations were tense. They don't really like you, particularly Warlear, the lawmaker of the keep.
He's the lawmaker. Oh God, we weren't told that before. He had a different title.
He's vizier.
The vizier is always evil.
That's the rule.
That
Or
is
tropes.
Little known fact, Vizier backwards is Hitler. No one knows that because they never bothered to spell it backwards, but letting you in on that.
Yeah, you may have thought we were playing the tabletop RPG D&D, but this is actually the tabletop RPG Secret Hitler.
That's funny because we were talking the whole pre-stream before you were here, Neil, about secret communists. So
What?
it's all coming back around one way or another. You got arrested in the end when you were tried to uncover. You discover that Warlear has some kind of deal with the dragoness that cursed your village. But he turned it around on you, and you got arrested. Put to sleep, knocked out, etc., etc.
Smack down like a little bitch.
Smacked down like a bunch of little bitches.
Only raked her.
You were also smacked down.
I took it like a man.
I mean, I was just asleep.
Or strong.
I didn't technically get
or
smacked
woman.
down, but
Sorry, I was distracted by Lightning saying that he's been gaped.
Yeah, I know. I was like,
that very much distracted me.
I was like, where is the typo? I can't figure out a typo. There's full stops, there's capitals, there's good punctuation.
Just getting you ready for your prison. No, that's bad.
I'm
Not
gonna
allowed to do
sit
that
up.
one. You better sit up, because where we start off today is in a gnomish prison cell. A room of cold stone. It's a small chamber. Not very tall. I mean, it's really meant for gnomes, not anyone taller than that. With sort of 2 stone benches built on either side where a lot of you are asleep and groggily waking up. All of your things, aside from your small clothes, have been taken from you.
All of them.
It's not like I had money belongings to begin with.
The only thing I want to query basically is his pendant.
Would have been taken. I knew you would ask. It was taken. And it's not like you can see where they are as well. And sometimes in other games, it's like, okay, you're in the prison cell and there's your stuff outside. No, you're just kind of in this stone chamber. There's this grinding noise, this constant stone on stone grinding noise that makes it very uncomfortable to sleep, along with the uncomfortable coldness, the uncomfortable stone, the uncomfortable darkness. The only little bit of light is coming in from a torch on the other side of the door, which has, typical iron bar window. All of you wake up with half HP. Your spells are recovered. You can only recover half your HP a night in such an uncomfortable place.
If I was on about half HP to begin with,
You'll restore back. Yeah.
Okay.
That's a good point.
but everything like spells and class
Spells
abilities
recover. Yeah.
Okay, good. Because otherwise, I was very low.
Your mind may be able to rest while your body can't. Yeah, and you just sort of all slowly, groggily wake up here in the dark. Belara is like face down, still passed out. Breathing, alive, but not waking up with the rest of you.
Oren, what happened?
We went into the mines. There were gnomish bodies filled with, it seemed like the dragon's corruption. Reanimated, walking. They attacked us, and we'd been told to remove the creatures in there. And so we did. We put them to rest. We piled the bodies and took one. We went out to find Warlier. We were worried at this point. We thought, well, what's Ian's character's bloody name?
Amaryllis.
Amaryllis! Tree!
Amaryllis noticed he'd mentioned the dragon's name, and there was no way he'd know that otherwise. And then we found reanimated bodies corrupted with the dragon down in a mine, hidden away. And, well, we got rather suspicious, and we thought perhaps we could leave with the second shipment with you as soon as possible. However, when we went to leave, Warlier said we weren't allowed to go.
He claimed the agreement was to work effectively as slaves.
Well, he did say take us to the slave quarters.
Yes, not in terms of a single task, as was agreed.
Well, in any event, I believe the first shipment was sent successfully. It could have been caught or stopped.
Warlier spent time alone with it. He wished to inspect it personally. I'm worried that he might have done something worse.
Oh. I thought I was being smart by telling him to go. But I may have just may
Well,
have just doomed Cornucopia. If he has.
I could be. The people won't. Well, I could be wrong. He's clearly manipulative and cruel, but he might not be evil. You know, what does he gain from killing all of us? The dragon could do it if she wanted it done. He's already got his deal, presumably. Anyway, Ritzy, you were to know.
Yes, you're right. There's no sense in killing us all.
He looks after his own people first and foremost, and perhaps only his own people. While he might not care about others, I do not get the feeling he would go out of his way to harm them.
Leha's still back, so, you know, if it's poison, maybe she'll tell. It's not like the village would just eat this strange food handed by the gnomes with none of us there.
You're right.
Your people are strong and clever. You would not succumb so easily to petty tricks.
What you say Warlier said the name Malakesh?
He mentioned Malakesh by name when we had not.
Given him the information.
Indeed.
How did I not see? I'm sorry, Torin. Balara. Oh.
Yeah, Warlier cast some sort of spell. Probably best to let her sleep it off.
Yes. I should have seen through his lies.
Nonsense. There's nothing wrong in believing that people can be good. And you know what? Some of these people are good. They've just got one bad egg in with them. They don't know what they're doing is wrong. They don't know that they've been led astray. That's why I wouldn't fight them. It's just not right.
This is not the end either. We are not in a good position at the moment, but opportunities will come. Although I do not imagine we can rely on a fair trial.
I'll just rest my head against the stone.
There is a rapping at the door. The sort of iron bar window was a little bit lower than you might expect, because it's gnomes. And it's that same guard that you actually spoke to at the gate. The one with the sort of reddish beard and knightly armor. Good. You're all awake. Then we'll be taking you to Warlier to discuss these matters. What got you in here in the first place?
Our friend isn't well. I think perhaps the magic that Warlier cast on her isn't agreeing with her. She appears to be unable to be roused.
She's allergic to sleep magic. You can give me a persuasion check.
It might happen. You don't know.
It totally could happen. Why not, right? That would be a funny reason to explain a 1. He hesitates a little. Something I forgot to note. Your ankles are manacled. Your hands have the manacles on, but they're not joined together yet. And he'll say, "Fine, stand back and we'll have someone take a look at her." And we'll open the door. He will walk in and take a look at Belara and kind of frown and then sort of heft her over her shoulder and carry her out. Awkwardly closing the door behind him. After a little bit, he'll come back and we'll say, "All of you up against the walls. Hands behind your backs."
Is she gonna be alright?
Yeah. Wally wouldn't just cast some kind of spell that would kill you.
No, not when having victims of his trial is much more effective.
Again, the guy hesitates, but will walk in, snap your manacles all together. He'll actually do it in front of you, not behind your back. And connect them all to one chain that he will start pulling. I hope this isn't all that uncomfortable. You might be having to get used to it, but it probably won't be very long.
We appreciate you checking, sir. It's kind of you.
It turns out, remember last time when you looked inside, Clearkeep is kind of built into a bit of an unnatural cavern. It's clearly been dug into and has an open space in the middle. Your little prisoner quarters are quite high up. You could literally jump off the edge of the walkway that you go off into and probably break your legs and the rest of you. There's a walkway that seems deliberately towards... all of you can figure out that, just based off the layout of the settlement, this is where food is prepared. There's lots of barrels and boxes and platters and things like that being prepared. Those of you that read Gnomish, which I think is now just Richter, can see that does go towards the farms. And behind where your little slave quarters are, prisoner quarters, sorry, appears to be their mill, which is why it's so loud. But lead you down through towards the palace sort of area where Warlear was before. Over there, there's gnomes sort of going, "For shame on them, shame," and similar things in Gnomish as you're being paraded through the street. You're brought into the palace area. It's not quite as decadent as it looks like on the outside. Definitely a lot of care has been made into the design of this place. But there's not much in the way of art or even fine goods. Just well-carved walls and things like that. Walks you down the corridor a bit to where what is clearly a meeting hall. It very much is laid out like a courtroom. Up on a little sort of stone box is Warlear. He's dressed a little bit better. There's a couple of rings and doodads. And a few other people in the room. Mostly guards who are kind of watching or guarding. And then, maybe the couple of elderly gnomes who don't really have anything else to do. But kind of be there in court. Because the rest of the fortress is still going. Still rolling. Still doing what they're doing. There is noticeably by Warlear a throne. Not the fanciest throne in the world, but in that is a gnome wearing gnomish armor and a very simple crown who seems to be in charge. He has a beard and fairly long hair. a little bit chubbier than the other gnomes, who's kind of having quiet conversation with Warlier while this is all happening. Clearly, you can clearly tell the sort of, is that them? Sort of thing he does briefly. Sorry, I saw Neil eating and it gave me the giggles. There is, where you are stood up against a desk, basically a stone desk. Belara is then brought in a little bit later. She's like walking, but she's kind of like groggy and half asleep. You can tell she won't remember anything that happens for the next little while. How convenient. And you're kind of left to a bit of your own device for a few moments. You are the chain that you were held on in is kind of like bolted down to the desk. So you can move a little bit. And that guard kind of sits down, watching you. After a few moments, a rushed, tired-looking, dark-haired, gnomish woman bustles into the room carrying all sorts of papers and books. And over to you. Like, you're the humans. And other. Good. I'm Leanne. I'm your, well, I'm gonna be working on your behalf, on the laws that might help you, your lawyer. I don't know if you use that word. And she's speaking common. Her common isn't that great. Often goes a bit ahead of the words. She kind of offers a handshake, but your hands are like too bound together, but she offers it to Richter.
I nod. Hello, Leanne. Thank you for offering your services.
Oh, it's honestly a great opportunity for me. I've never really been in a real court case before.
Amazing. Good.
I mean, I had the whole thing with my aunt with the dormitories. She was trying to get her mouse dog to stay in there, but it was against the regulations, and well, I failed that request. But this is a whole different situation.
Leanne, is there any precedent for claiming sanctuary?
Well, and she kind of like flicks through her books and things. Yes, if there was a real proof of danger. Is this about the dragon that I was told to research?
It is.
There's no proof that there's ever been a dragon in this valley, aside from generations ago. And our generations are a bit longer than your generations.
I hope you don't take offense, Leanne, but all you have to do is walk about a mile or two. Well, no, about how many days is it?
It's like a day travel.
Yeah. All you have to do is walk a couple days downriver, and the corruption gets pretty apparent, like to the point where you can't miss it unless you're blind, and you can't feel, and you're deaf.
I'll have to look into that. I'm in sort of the research gathering phase. She kind of like writes something down in Gnomish in her notepad. That's good. That's good. If that's the case, and I believe you, then that's good. That Warley doesn't have any sort of case for the keep.
How long do proceedings like this normally take?
Well, it depends. Usually not very long. We're quite studious with our laws and how they can work. So I mean, you might be out by lunchtime, maybe.
What's the alternative?
Well, I believe they're going. The other question is that you work off your crimes. Just simple manual labor.
And what if we have proof? We could find proof that Warlier worked with this dragon, caused the death of several other gnomes, and then sent away a food shipment that was corrupted or poisoned in a manner so as to silence the villagers as well.
That would be really good proof if we had it. But I mean, I don't right now.
No. But the court has to give us opportunity to provide the proof, correct?
That's right, that's right.
We can't do that from in jail. So, Liam, we're counting on you to save us and our village. You must have a friend. Wait, Balara had a friend. What was his name?
Gale.
Gale.
Gale! You're working
Look,
with Gale.
After this first session, do us a favour. Go and speak with Gale. Tell him what we know. Tell him the food was poisoned. He can leave. He looked like a capable sort. All right, Liam, will you do this for me?
Yeah, I can find Gale. She's noticeably sweating.
And not a word of this to anyone else.
That's right. Until we have the proof, it would just be slander, this could be terrible. That's when mace on the stone as the court proceedings begin. Wallace stands and kind of brushes off his robe and says that this is the case between the humans of Cornucopia and what they are bringing up against us here at Clearkeep. They claim that there is a dragon corrupting the lands, which we have seen no proof of. They claim that this corruption is killing gnomes, but the only body they've presented has the markings and injuries of their very weapons, which we have taken from them. So that they may no longer be a harm. But, my lord, he kind of motions to the guy in the throne. There is one major problem with this case. They are making accusations against me, Warlier, Vizier, lawmaker of Clearkeep. Therefore, as the lawmaker of Clearkeep, I cannot do my duty justly. This court proceeding cannot continue justly while I am in charge. So I suggest that we postpone this case for 50 years until I am no longer in charge of the laws of Clearkeep. I believe this is a fair and just act. I believe this will give a just opportunity for both sides in this case.
May I speak?
There is a when you start speaking.
My lord.
He does not reply, but does not stop you.
If I might make first comment upon this, to postpone the trial for 50 years would be tantamount to imprisoning us humans for half our lives, which, as people of reason and intelligence, you can all see, is a severe punishment in itself.
Can you give me a persuasion check? I like court episodes. Yes, would be before Warley really starts talking. The guy in the throne kind of motions her hands. It is true. They live shorter lives than us. 50 years might be a bit much. Why don't we knock it down to 20 years? We'll see back then. I think that's much fairer. Might mean that you step down a little bit earlier from your position, Warlier. I was like, I am prepared to make whatever sacrifice I have to make for law and justice to continue as it should. And if that means stepping down in 20 years, then that means stepping down in 20 years. That is... I will accept those terms. And I will promise to my people to do the good that I will do. With even more vigor in the short time that I have to do it. 20 years.
Postponing for 20 years would bring doom upon the village that these folk come from. The village is reliant on these young ones to shoulder the burdens of rebuilding the tragedy that has occurred there.
There is no proof of this tragedy.
Okay, Ollie, at this point, I mean, it's very early on, but can I get any sort of read on whether the Lord is, like, reasonable?
You want to get the Lord's... Yeah, give me an insight roll on him.
Okay.
Feel free.
Too quick to tell anything, I guess.
It's too quick to tell, but he at least seems open to discussion.
Okay, in that case, I would like to clarify the precise wording of your communique spell. Does it have to be a still image I send, or as I mentioned before stream, can I send like a...
I think it can be a small... It can be more of an idea than a particular still image. A bit like a panorama or one of those iPhone photos that you can kind of tilt a little bit.
I would like to send to the Lord, I would like to send an image of the village with the dragon attack, like on the roof, all the villagers around, these lot nearby. And so what would be seen would just be a bit of a rustling in Amaris's hair as a couple of flowers blooms, and then little spectral bird pokes out and flutters over to the Lord and sort of lands on his shoulder.
There is like an uproar while this happens. Warlow is like, they are casting spells in this courtroom! This must be shut down! But the Lord kind of raises his hand. Warlier, this dryad is giving me...
Nice freeze point there.
This dryad is giving me a vision of the truth, Warlier. Ollie, don't want none. Emote confirmed. And Warlow's like, if they are sending you messages in illusion, it is incredibly easy for any politric bard or woodland creature to send false images into the minds of the weak-willed, my lord. And then he realizes what he said. The Lord kind of furrows his furry brows and tenses up a little bit more.
As your vizier has so rightly pointed out, I am not from the village of Cornucopia. I have assisted them in some matters, but I am not biased. I attempted to warn them of the tragedy and have aided them in the reconstruction, but I am not of their number. I have no reason to distort the truth.
Leanne's like, which makes her a witness to this destruction, as she is not biased. Is that not right, my lord? And you can give me a persuasion check with advantage, Mr. Amaryllis.
Leanne coming in hot.
Glad I have advantage. My bad charisma. I'm sorry. I'm going all in. I'm gonna alter fate on that. I want to there. Gonna make that a success.
Okay, that's a good alter fate usage.
Yes, exactly.
For a few moments, it seems like there's an uproar in the courtroom. It seems like all the gnomes are angry at you to the point of rioting, but that fades away as if it never really happened, and it's kind of hard for the four of you to tell if it did or not.
Someone just vomits viscerally. Just,
as Amaryllis weaves through fate. The Lord sits a bit more comfortably in their throne. So, I will go with them to Cornucopia. We will see if this is the truth, and if this is the truth, then we will give our assistance. This is what... Our people always hide away from the dangers of the world. But if we hide, then these people suffer. And I will not have it. I will go with them. Well, roll 20 gives an error message, a bad omen. I will go with them. And my lord, I must go with you. If that is in terms, then we will travel together to Cornucopia. Unshackle these humans! There's a little bit of murmuring noise, but most people seem to agree. There's a couple of people saying a little bit of gnomish prayers, one way or another. But the guard goes and unshackles the lot of you.
Thank you, my lord. I must ask, however, is it wise for both the leader and the vizier and lawmaker of the city to leave in such a possibly trying time, and also in the midst of a court case? Perhaps it would be better if Warlier stayed behind to protect your interests in your absence.
Give me a persuasion check.
Having a 0 mod, I'm just like firing blanks.
Firing blanks. Warlier will scoff and will say, as the master of law and the one that you are putting such tall tales against is only reasonable. But I and the Lord brings us like, no, you say. You have always had the best interest in our people at heart, Warlier. You may be mistaken now, maybe. It will be the ruby-eyed God who decides that. Decides how the dice fall in this situation, how the cards may lay. I'll travel with them with a retinue of my own choosing. You will stay. That might be the best choice. Court is dismissed, he will say as he gets up, takes a cloak from beside the throne and kind of pulls around him and walks quite a bit of a rush. Warlier is a little bit stunned, but his sharp eyes glare at the four of you. And I was like, well, I guess you're free to go. That's you definitely the spell, the bird. That's very good. Yes. Let's go.
Oh, we couldn't have done it without you, Liam.
Untrue.
Factually inaccurate.
I'm being good, all right?
I know, yeah. Deception, no. You are kind of ushered out, but then kind of left to your own devices. You aren't really watched all that. Well, people are keeping an eye on you, but it's not like the guards are following you. That same guard will, from inside the palace, which meant your things were being kept quite a ways away, will hand you all your backpacks of things, hastily stuffed. We'll say, this goes without saying, but if anything happens to Lord Shaw while you're away, then it would be very bad for the lot of you.
Rest assured, Richter and I will lay down our lives to protect him and the village.
Understood. Glad we understand each other then. He'll give a nod and kind of hand you your bag and head off back to the front gate.
Torrin would turn to Richter and be like, "See, all we have to do is believe in good people. Have faith, Richter. Rick's on our side."
Seemed more Amaryllis's magical persuasion,
Well, yes, of course, but
not some god.
well, I believe Amaryllis was sent to us at the behest of perhaps Oilin.
Torrin, I've seen what you can do. I don't mean to question your faith. I'm just... I don't want to disregard what Amaryllis just did for us.
I could not allow you to rot here. The flow can be twisted. Different paths can be chosen.
Richter is right. Thank you, Amaryllis. You've very well changed the fate of our village there.
Twice, I might say.
So,
We're lucky to have such a spirit guardian as you.
you will do great things, young ones. Believe that, if nothing else.
Torrin would put a hand on Amaryllis's wrist, just rest it there for a moment, and then drop it down to by his side. Sorry, these cheesy onion rings are thick.
Cheesy onion rings.
They are
Jesus
thick. Look at
They're
it.
chunky.
They're like
Oh, that was a good crunch, though.
they're full of cheese and onion, and it is good.
Well,
Ooh,
there's a
like
cheesy onion
scum.
ring. That would be the two things you're asking for. Find something else, or a lack of. You'll head out. Lord Shore, the Lord of the Keep, with his armor and a bag of some things, will walk out of the keep's front gates, kind of like shield his eyes a little bit from the morning sun. The gnomish eyes kind of take a moment to refocus on the right things. And we'll say, then, please show me to your village, to your people. If they are in need, we will be making haste.
Torrin would look to Richter.
Okay, well, it's just you. No other party coming with us?
I do not wish to overburden.
Understood. Might I request we take some sort of vessel down the river? Hasten the process, perhaps.
It was a wise idea. We could take one of the trading boats. Let me ask permission. Oh, wait. I'm in charge. We will absolutely do so. Yes, as lords of old demanded. He's kind of clearly taking some joy in the idea of a little trek,
Yeah, definitely.
and has a bit of a strut as he starts walking down towards the shore, curling his beard. His beard's very curly. It's kind of like curls up almost back around.
What's this guy?
His name is Shore. Goes over to the little kind of like jetty that they have there. Very similar to the one you have at Cornucopia. Is not really like designed for shipping or anything like that, but there's like a little simple bit. If it wasn't made for gnomes, it would be a larger than average rowboat. But it was. So the five of you could fit on quite nicely. He kind of sits at the front. but will take from his things a crossbow. It is quite ornately made. Some care has been put into the design, as even a couple of gemstone things, and kind of put that down so as if he's like taking point, and kind of motion for these two boys to row.
Yes, I'm at the back end of the rowboat, looking out from what's behind us, Em.
Please, you two, unless you have water tool proficiency, a very well-defined mechanic in D&D 5e, please give me athletics checks. Amaryllis, you can give me perception. And Balara's still like, what are we doing? Where are we going?
Row your boat gently down the stream.
I was gonna be so down, like, yes, Richter would be leading, giving the command, and then you're just making a joke. That wasn't diegetic at all. How dare you?
Sorry.
One moment, please.
You know, actually being able to roll perception decently is quite fun.
Yeah.
Makes a difference for my characters.
Ian's like, is this fantasy?
Yeah.
Perception is high?
Yeah, I can notice things.
You start traveling down the river. None of you have really ever been on a boat like this before. Well, aside from maybe Amaryllis. Who knows what's going on with Amaryllis?
One day she just flops back and just floats.
She is the boat. But it's a very simple little wooden rowboat with a couple of metal fixings to make it, so the oars don't dislodge and things like that. It's well made. The river, it's a mountainous river through a valley. The waters are in some points rocky, at some points a little bit rough. But Richter does kind of take charge of this sort of thing and kind of tell Torin what to do. Understanding the theory, at least, of rowing. And Amaryllis can do a really good job of actually spotting where dangers might be in the very literal flow of the river ahead, especially when the dangers aren't rocks or fallen trees, but, in particular, Gwaelings. There is a point where the river is particularly wide, and you go to road where the flow is faster, and Amaryllis kind of holds out a hand to stop you. And you see, standing on the bank on what look like mounds of dirt and twigs, these 3-foot-tall otter people with spears. Just staring you down. Like a small group of them. Even one of them is like...
Gnome Lord just rearranges.
Yeah, you do! He definitely puts a hand down on it. One even throws a stone towards the boat, but it doesn't go very far, and Shawl is like, these things are incredibly aggressive.
They defend their territory.
Possibly. Do you think the corruption could make them more agitated? Amaryllis?
Perhaps. They did not seem to be affected, but if their homes were affected, it could displace them and cause agitation, yes.
There's some echo on that enter button. I loved it. It was like... Whoosh.
I mute when I'm typing for chat, so they don't get to hear the...
Oh, I loved it. It was great.
The saucy...
It was proper like... Whoosh. Finesse.
You, Shawl listens to this. It's one of those things you can tell whenever idle chit-chat begins that he's paying a lot of attention. He might seem kind of almost oafish. But there's definitely a keenness about him. Listening to the way you're acting, the way Amaryllis is talking, little gnomish ears on a swivel. Yeah. The boat travels further, and it's remarkable how much quicker the travel is. Of course, this is downstream, but that's when you start to get to points where the corruption is really evident. You don't need to make any kind of check to notice it. To notice the trees. They're not dying, but they're starting to twist. Starting to change color. The grasses are starting to almost lose their sheen. Dead fish up against the water's edge. Lots of like dry, crumbly kind of like flotsam in the water from when the trees have just kind of crumbled and lost their integrity. The corruption is quite clear at a certain point, and that's when Lord Shaw actually stands up and kind of looks out over. He doesn't actually have any words in the moment, but the more astute of you might notice him actually pluck for a little kind of trinket that kind of looks like a dice on a keychain, made of maybe silver or gold, maybe both.
Trickster god of the gnomes.
And kind of clutches it.
Would I recognize that as a
You can give me a
symbol?
religion check, yeah. And in fact, anyone can if they were so interested.
Go on.
That's
I like
a 15.
religion.
Yeah, I was baiting Neil for one. No, understandably. Amaryllis, you don't know a whole lot about gnomish gods, but you've interacted with gnomes enough. Almost all the gnomes believe in their deities in a very different way. They believe less in the real like divine acts and more in kind of divine concepts, and their book is more stories and not necessarily real. You know, their gods are much more realistic people at the same time, kind of contradictorily. But luck is used a lot in their holy imagery. One of the core beliefs, and you can't tell which god, if any, this is connected to, but it's clearly connected to what they call the runaway gods, who are historic figures. We don't know the specifics. Is that they don't really manipulate the world like some faiths believe, but they'll just change chance. Something that I'm sure Amaryllis actually found quite an interesting idea. Gnomes will often roll dice to see as omens, right? If you get a good roll, well, good luck's coming, right? So he kind of clutches that and fiddles with that in his fingers, and you can actually notice that it's worn, you know, around the edges where his fingers have touched it over 100 years or so. And this is actually a great place to take a little break. And be back in a moment. Thank you for the subs. But I would really prefer to have a Subway sandwich right now. Not from Subway.
Wow, it's not September, dude.
Not from Subway. From somewhere better. There's that sponsorship out the window.
I just had a burger, and it was like your classic burger: bit of mayo,
Classic Borg.
bit of relish, lettuce, cheese, grilled burger, solid. But I was like, you know what? I want something more. Oh, and bacon, very important in this, like thick grilled bacon. I was like, you know what? I want something more. So I got grilled pineapple in it.
That a Hawaiian burger.
It was.
I
it was
hear
so
they're
good.
all right.
It was thick cut bacon, and the grilled pineapple on top. It just.
Ugh.
I
God,
like
it was-
experimenting with burgers, right? They're a
It was
very
like
versatile food source.
Right. Exactly. There's
You
so
can have
much
a-
you can do with it.
You can have a burger right off the vine, or you can go a little more dramatic.
The other day, I made a pizza with capers, anchovy, and olive.
Yeah, pizza is also very versatile.
You gotta go out there, you know.
You gotta experiment, otherwise we're gonna spend all our lives like a Dean Cutsforth.
Why go for Dean when you can have Neil?
I knew that was coming. All
All
right.
right. So a bit more bite-sized, a bit easier to manage. A little more plain. A little area for some reason.
Well, I don't know.
All right, let's get out of here. See you later. Be back in a moment.